So looking at the site and all the submissions of before syllabi and reports and interim reports, it's clear that there's a lot of activities happening around campus, around the country through the Fellows Program. And the final report is a way to capture the key elements of those activities and be able to overview from the foundation perspective, okay, this is what the 2013-14 year has produced as results and outcomes and takeaways for the program. And that's sort of the thinking behind it, and we really need your help and assistance in getting the key takeaways articulated in a way that we can gather a report that we can say, okay, this is the overarching impact that the program has produced for this year. So, and the report has the fellows component. So fellows who have started this year are modifying and creating new syllabi and modules and new coursework. And some of them have posted the before syllabi and activities on the site. Others are working to complete those tasks, and some fellows are able to teach that modified course in the spring term. Some may not be able to do so until fall of 2015. Fall of 2014. So there are variations of implementation throughout the community. So we'd like to get a sense of how that works out. And the directors' report themselves are collected via SurveyMonkey, and you will get a link sent out to you. And we ask you that you complete everything before the 20th of June, which is the timeline that the foundation has set. So within these activities, I wanted to take a minute to talk about the fellows reports. And I'm hoping that this will be a dialogue rather than me talking about this, because there's always questions around this. Okay, what do my fellows post? As part of the interim report, most of the fellows, all the new fellows and the veteran fellows were required to post an update. If they are new fellows, they are posting the before syllabus, as we call it, which identifies the course that they have targeted and said, this is the course that I would be working with, and creating a module, lesson plans to infuse entrepreneurship. And that has already happened for the new fellows. And for the veteran fellows, it's a combination of, well, I started doing this modification, and I haven't taught it yet, but this is what I'm working on. And so there is this interim piece. And so now at the end of the year, we would like a completed syllabus if it is from a new fellow. This is the after syllabus after modification. And the veteran fellows have had an update that we want to see from that says, okay, this is when I started, this is how it started, and this is what I did, and this is what I think I have learned from it, and this is what I will plan to do in the future. And so the directors are the sort of the liaison between us and the fellows, and we encourage you to work with the fellows and get them to post it on before the 20th of June. So the director's report, and I have a sample of the questions that we are going to finalize and send you a SurveyMonkey link. That is pretty, if you have done this in the past, it is pretty similar to what was happening in the past years. And we have added a couple of new questions, and we'll go through that in a few minutes. And then we have announcements that Clark and I will make. So let's go back to the director's reports, which is where I think most of the questions come from. And let me see if I can.
While Joe's preparing for that, this is Clark. I just wanted to thank everyone, as this is our final meeting of the year. You know, we want to let you know we really do appreciate the efforts that you've put into the Fellows Program. You know, we certainly see value in it. As you noted, since our last meeting, we have announced the new grant awards, and congratulations to those of you that are continuing. We look forward to working with you going forward into the new year. And as we, you know, transition into the new year, we're always trying to improve the program and understand what's working. And particularly with this new, you know, summit in midsummer, we've got an opportunity to really share things that are working earlier in the year than we had previously. So that's why, you know, this final reporting is important, or that's part of why it's important. And so we really do ask that you focus on it. And as Joe kind of gives you some examples here, you know, it'll be really essential that you commit a little bit of time to it. It's not going to be radically different from final report frameworks that we've used in the past. So those of you that were involved, you know, last year, this will look very familiar to you. But it is something that we do review and that helps shape the program going forward. So again, thanks for your commitment to doing that. Thanks also for your encouragement of your fellows to post to the site. So reinforcing what Joe said, you know, if there is a syllabus that has been modified through the fellowship program, that really needs to be posted to the site. And particularly now we're gaining the ability to look at the before version and the after version, which is really helpful. And then for your veteran fellows, we are looking for them to post a report to the site or an article to the site, you know, some way of helping us understand what they've done. As you know from the recent requests that we made for budget status, we are interested in, you know, the way in which these resources are being deployed and the outcomes from the work that they're doing. So the visibility at the website is one way to see that. So again, thanks for your leadership through the year. Congratulations on a good year within the Fellows Program, and please help us to improve it through completing program reports.
Thanks, Clark. So what I have is a list of questions that we have drafted, and it may be modified before it's sent out, but this is similar to what we did last year. We are asking you to help us determine impact of the Fellows Program on your campus. And when you answer these questions, we are looking for not only your numbers, but also the details, the story behind the numbers, the anecdotes, and details that explain the numbers. So this is the first question that you will see. As the Fellows Program increased your ability to spread self-employment and entrepreneurship education across campus. And here we have several options. And so when you answer this question, we hope that you will say increase or significant increase, and whatever the case may be on your campus. And please provide examples of how you see this playing out on your campus.
But Joe, I would say we really want to encourage you to be very frank and truthful. So don't just give us what you think that we want to know. You know, give us richness in your comments and give us the real perspective that you have.
Yes, thank you, Clark. Yes, and like sometimes when we have conversations, we want the soup to nuts process of good, bad, and the ugly. So the next question addresses the ability from you as a director. Has it increased because of the Fellows Program on your campus? And again, please give us examples and details of how that has happened. In some instances, perhaps other instances not so well. So give us all of the details. How has the Fellows Program helped you increase your ability to promote entrepreneurship on your campus? So it's so if you are within a school, perhaps that has increased your capability to promote entrepreneurship, but also across the campus system across the university. And if you have been in the program for a couple of years or longer, then the foundation is looking for some sort of a comparison and say, okay, last year this is what happened, this year this is what has happened, and compared to that, this year was better, not so good, or this is why it was different, and some details about how you see that played out in your campus. We also would like you to indicate the collaboration within and among your fellows. There are some campuses where fellows have broken down silos and are working together to promote not only entrepreneurship, but also aspects related to entrepreneurship and self-employment, engaging students in the clubs and competitions and bringing alumni to campus and bringing local entrepreneurs to campus. And a lot of these activities are definitely better if there's a collaborative effort. And is there collaboration like that on your campus happening because of the Fellows Program? And again, how does this compare to last year's or previous years? And what level of administrative support do you have for the Fellows Program at your institution? And hopefully, and this year, the foundation requested matching dollars, and in the past there have been other ways of supporting Fellows Program. From the Dean's office, they can break down some barriers and silos that you may not be able to break down. So there is cash on the table support, but also there's a lot of intangible and key support that comes from the administration. So we're looking for examples of that. And how does this support compare to last year or prior years? There may be a new dean or a new provost or a change in the administration that could impact some of these things. So we'd like to know about that. What percent of fellows courses modified? If it's a new course, 100%, 50 to 75%. If you have a module that impacts 5 class sessions, let's say you are, and again, different campuses have different modules and different ways to break up a course. So this is an example of how you could gauge that. 25 to 50% is less than 3 class sessions. Less than 25% is less than 2 sessions. And so this is, again, an estimate rubric that we think works for the program. So, and what are some of the courses being modified currently, and when will they be offered? If it is fall 2015 or spring fall, I'm sorry, I keep going to the next year. Fall 2014, spring 2015, fall 2015 or summer 2015, or it's being offered now, or it's not going to be offered because something has changed. So like Clark mentioned, we would like to hear all of the details relating to these kinds of opportunities and maybe even hindrances that you may encounter. The next question, are these required courses? So if it's a topics course that can be offered maybe once every 3 years or 5 years, and that was the course that you were able to modify, or one of your fellows were able to modify, that's fine. We just want to know about that. Or if you are able to say, okay, the course everybody takes across the undergraduate core is being now infused with entrepreneurship content within the history majors or arts majors or engineering, electrical engineering majors. Whatever that may be, we would like to know about it. And this is where, again, we want you to give details and explain how this has played out on your campus. Did any of the fellows on your campus develop a module for multiple courses? This is a key. It's sort of interesting in a lot of ways, because if there is a fellow on your campus that was able to create a module that can be used across, let's say, engineering majors, the impact of that is not only within your campus, it can be community-wide module that can be adopted by other faculty teaching engineering. And so that is something that I think we could, we want to pay special attention to. And it's not a requirement that every fellow should do that, but sometimes in the past, and also I think even this year, there are some fellows who are able to create a module that can be easily adapted by multiple campuses across the community of practice in multiple schools and disciplines. So that would be an interesting piece for us to find out. And again, please give details. Please provide information about that. Question 16 talks to estimate the number of contact hours fellows spend with students teaching and exploring entrepreneurship / self-employment content across the fellows courses. Last year, we introduced this question to the community. Again, we are not asking you to count every second or every 5 minutes faculty spend time with the students. We want a general understanding of, okay, this year we have 7 new fellows and 6 veteran fellows, and collectively they engage with about 50 students each, or 15 students each, or 10 students each, whatever the case may be on your campus. And they may also be advising them, they may be teaching in those majors. So whatever the case may be, we would like an estimate of, okay, this is my best estimate of how many contact hours fellows were able to spend with the students. So again, it's just a gauge of how this is playing out on your campus. And then we get into how does this compare to last year? So was there anything, for example, I know that there are a couple of fellows who were on sabbatical. Sometimes sabbatical means they go away and do stuff on their own, but a couple of the fellows took the sabbatical to spend more time on the fellows program. So that was a very positive thing to have as a fellow, some time to focus in on what you would do in infusing entrepreneurship to your coursework, within the coursework and within your majors. And so those kinds of details would be very useful for us to know about. Our courses, permanent additions to the curriculum. Some are not permanent, some are permanent, and we would like to know where some of the coursework and the curriculum changes made fall under. And the courses offered are they electives? Are they required? Again, some campuses, it's easy to add a required course to the core, and some campuses you have to go through several layers of permission. Whatever the case may be, we just want to know where your coursework falls under on your campus. How are you as project director engaged with the development and evaluation of the concepts within the fellows course? My sense is that every director is engaged at some level. We just would like to have you tell us how we can gauge that based on your answers to this question. How does this compare to last year or prior years? So that will be also very useful information for us to get from you. How many hours do you spend? We know at a minimum with the coffee hours and the other activities that we're asking you to, you spend X number of hours every month. But beyond that, are there things that you do on your campus that you can say, okay, this is an estimate of how much time I spend with the fellows as a group, one-on-one, a combination of both. And again, this is an estimate that we would like to know about. How does this compare to the prior years? This is, again, in all of these questions, we added a text box, so you can hopefully feel free to write to us about all of the details that you can share with us. How many hours per month do you spend with individual fellows? Again, the same kind of question. How does this compare to last year? This year we added a couple extra questions. How did your institution spend the funds granted by the foundation for the fellows program? And first, it relates to, okay, did you spend all of it? Yes. If yes, then if you add a couple of comments, that would be great. If no, we definitely want you to tell us, okay, we intended to spend X number of dollars and then it didn't happen for whatever reason. And the second question also relates to that. So again, like Clark mentioned, we ask you to give us all of the good, bad, and the ugly, and all of the information as direct and frankly as you can. Last question is, how many students were enrolled in courses for the fellows in the academic year? If this is your first year, then you can estimate enrollment for next academic year. Because if you're in the program for the first year, not all the fellows are able to teach the courses that they are modifying this year. So they may be able to do the modification or infusion of entrepreneurship content in the coursework, but then they may be able to offer it for the first time in the fall term of 2014. So if that is the case, then we'd like you to estimate that for us. So those are all the kind of questions that we have identified so far. And again, we are going to maybe modify it a little bit if needed, and we'll send you a link. So there's a question from Georgianne. Go ahead, Georgianne.
My question is, can we get a copy of that soon? We're out of class next week, and I need to be able to ask some of my fellows some of these questions. I mean, we've already gone over that. We met last week, but I'd like specifics of what information you want so I can make sure I have specifics. It would really help to have a copy of that as soon as possible. And the other thing is, if we type it into SurveyMonkey last year, we didn't get a copy of what we sent in, so it's nice to have a Word document that we can pre-write everything, think about it, have a copy for our own files and our institutional research people. And so the question is, can we have a copy of it beforehand as soon as possible?
Yeah. Clark, do you want to chime in on a timeline here?
Yeah, sure, Georgianne, absolutely. Yeah, we'll email that out early next week so that you have it, and maybe even as early as Monday.
Perfect. That would be great. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the survey itself?
This is Mark Holcher. I have a request for Clark.
Go ahead, Mark. Yeah.
Can you make sure that it gets emailed to my co-director, Laurie Merriman?
Sure.
Okay, because I'll be out of the office, and that way she'll have it by Monday.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Diane, go ahead.
Hi, Joe.
Hi.
Question is, I have a associate director for the first time this year, and do you want, what I was thinking about doing is having both of us put some comments down, and that's what we would need that in advance too, because we'd have to like fill the form out and then enter it, so we had it all in one piece, Or do you send it separately to the associate directors and the director, and do you think it's a good idea the associate director adds stuff into this?
Yeah, Diane, this is Clark, I'll address that. We want one response from each campus. So if you can kind of coordinate your response such that it captures, what you and your co-director would like to communicate, feel free to do that. But we really just want to have one response from each school.
Okay, so if we get it ahead of time, Joe's going to send it out. We should be able to, if we have a Word document, we can work from the Word document and then enter it in the SurveyMonkey.
Yeah.
So that
Great.
should work.
Sharon
Okay.
or Milton? Thanks for that. Sharon, go ahead.
Same thing. Word document would be helpful. My associate director, I'd like at least for him to be on the contact that you send out. We'll have a single voice that comes back. But I would like to also be clear on what information you want from new fellows and what information you want from all fellows.
Sure. Sharon, from anyone who has modified a course, we want the new syllabus to be posted.
Okay.
So, in the interim reporting, a lot of folks are posting their kind of before syllabus.
Correct.
So any course that's been changed, we'd like to see the after. A lot of people, as they're posting that after, are also giving us a little write-up. You know, they're describing what their key takeaways were, things like that. So that kind of perspective is very important. That helps us understand the impact. For veteran fellows, you know, it's not hard and fast. I mean, for veteran fellows, folks that have been funded through the program this year, we'd like to receive, you know, some sense of what they did, of, you know, what they think their outcomes were. So again, we're not going to put a lot of parameters and structure there because the activities that these veterans are doing are very different. But we do want to see something from each of them.
Okay, but I guess what I'm saying, last year there were specific questions that you wanted only the new fellows, you know, that were targeted to the new fellows. I guess that's all I'm asking again to make sure we understand that.
Yeah,
Sharon, last year we didn't ask the before and after syllabus, so we asked specific questions relating to fellows. And we didn't do it as a survey in like we are doing for the directors. There were some. I mean, there were because I remember I think I had to respond, which is okay, whatever way you want it. I just want to make sure that some of the questions, if they pertain to new fellows, that gets specifically identified. That's all I'm.
Thanks, Sharon. No, thanks for making sure that we're clear. And if you think about it from our side, what we'll be doing is laying these two syllabi next to one another, before and after.
Sure.
And so if there's a story there that a fellow wants to tell, hey, here's how I got to this, or here's why it's maybe not as visible, the change, as you might think, you know, have them incorporate that in a report.
Okay. Or here's what I did, here's what I experimented with, here's what I found out, and here's what I'm changing.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Sharon. Just to be clear, the fellows reports are not submitted via SurveyMonkey. They are posted directly to the fellows site. So I just want to be for the fellows, we are asking the directors to work with the fellows and have them posted to the site, new and veteran fellows. The directors are the ones who get the SurveyMonkey link to complete the reports. Okay, are there any other questions? So I will send out, after I get a chance to finalize this with Clark, I'll send this out to you as soon as possible, definitely by Monday. Georgianne, go ahead.
Can you send out with that just a write-up and specifically what you want from the fellows? I mean, I've taken notes here, but a specific write-up is on the
Georgianne, I couldn't hear you. Can you speak up?
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm sorry. I'm proctoring the exam and I'm on a headphone. So can you hear me now?
Yes, now it's better. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. Can you send out, when you send the report, can you just say specifically what you want from the fellows? So I can send that link. I mean, I've taken notes, but I want to just make sure I have them doing specifically what you want. And then secondly, do you have the summit date set? Because that's really important for us to have now before everybody leaves for the summer, so they can start making plans, because it's right when we come back to school. So we need to plan for it right now if we can.
Yes, perfect segue. So the summit is set for August 15th and the 16th, and this will be held in the Hilton complex in Lisle, Illinois. And we'll be sending out the dates. I think were sent out with the RFP. So we are set on the dates. So August 15th and 16th. So the plan is to start on Friday the 15th in the afternoon at noon. And we have, based on feedback from several years, decided to hold the event over a day and a half. So there'll be a lot more time for the community of practice to come together, faculty to come together based on interest groups, based on the courses they teach or the disciplines they work in. And so we are planning to end the next day, the 16th, around 4:30 or 5. We haven't nailed down all the details of the summit, but we know the dates and where it's going to happen. And Clark, do you want to chime in?
Yeah.
Anything to add?
Let me go back to Georgianne's request. Georgianne, we will, when we send out the PDF, and it's maybe a PDF, maybe a Word document of the reporting template, we will give more clear guidance on expectations on reporting. So we'll send that out so that you have it. Going back to one of the questions on the report, and as you know, we just made a recent request that you responded to earlier this week on budget status. So, Mike, did you want to kind of recap our conclusions of that?
Yeah, I just a couple things I wanted to add. You have a couple of new questions this year, and we had that request for balances on greater than 1,000, and this was really triggered by only a couple institutions where we found significant unencumbered funds. And it usually was the result of faculty not, leaving the institution, or illness, or program fund reallocation. Not a widespread issue, but we've been trying to respond to the budget that you sent in and use that as a guideline as to how you see those funds being allocated. And from the conversations, at least that I've had, it's not always clear, as easy for you to see exactly what those individual fellows' funds accounts may look like. But we do believe that in your ongoing conversations with your fellows, you need to be aware of the deployment of those funds against the budget you submitted. And so we hope that those conversations reveal things that are working. Initially, the use of those funds is certainly a measure of the activity on campus. So we want to make sure that you're aware of that, and that if there is a redeployment necessary, that you have conversations with us about that, so there's no surprises at the end. That's it.
Okay. So you do see that these questions do reappear, and you might think, hey, I just answered these things, now they're going to be on the report again. So this is just for us to kind of get them into the formal documentation of the report, and also to give you, another month, because many of you said, hey, I'm tracking against spending these dollars, but, the grant's still open. So this will allow you in now a month to be able to kind of confirm the expenditure status of the grant funds. So I think that closes out the topic on final reporting. If there are any questions, please notate that, raise your hand, and Joe will acknowledge your question. But as we kind of move to talking about the summit, I think, Joe, that's
excuse me, Clark, there's a question on that from Diane, or UNCG.
I had a question on the summit, so I'll hold off until you get done talking.
Oh, I'm sorry, Diane. Go ahead, Clark. I'm sorry.
Okay. So the summit scheduled, as Joe said, August 15th, 16th. Agenda is in development, but it will provide a rich opportunity for greater sharing and interaction among fellows. And we, repeatedly get these requests after summits. We want more time to engage with one another. And I think what we learned from last year's summit was that we had a little bit too much programming built in there. We had, we introduced the Drucker content, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. And that served as a nice kind of content anchor. But I think our takeaway was the summit was a little bit too structured, a little bit too much kind of over-programmed, and we needed to create more flexibility for people to be able to engage with one another, have the conversations that they feel are most important, and network. So we're going to really look, as we're finalizing the agenda for the day and a half, to build in good time for people to connect with one another in a less structured way. Now, there still will be kind of content elements, like the Drucker content. And so there will be kind of takeaways and content that we'll be discussing that can serve as kind of an anchor for programming, because we did find that a lot of people did use Drucker material in their courses, and I know you guys, as project directors have seen that, so there is some value there. But we, will have more specific information on the details of the agenda here in coming days, but please be aware that it will start midday on that Friday, the 15th, so we'll expect you to be there for opening lunch with your fellows, and it will end, late afternoon on the Saturday. So that's the time, and the expectation is that all new fellows will attend, and so that's nothing new. That's always been a program requirement. All project directors will attend. If you choose to bring a co-director, you know, we welcome that, but we do want some kind of, you know, director representation from each campus at the summit. And then veteran fellows are certainly welcome to attend. As in prior years, you know, we're interested in bringing in those folks. Many of them are, you know, have great experience that they can share, so they are certainly welcome to attend. As you may recall, in prior years, we've connected the CEO conference, and the foundation would fund the registration fees for the CEO conference. We're now doing the CEO conference. Hey, can I just ask if you're
mute.
Okay, and I'm still waiting for Carla. What we're going to do going forward is, you know, decouple from the CEO conference. So therefore, obviously, we won't be funding your CEO conference fees as part of the summit. And as in prior years, travel is expected to be funded from your grant. So we will still, you know, manage a contract with the hotel to secure a number of rooms and make those available at a very attractive rate. But we will be looking to you to fund the same kinds of, you know, expenses that you funded in the past for summit participation. So that's kind of a quick and dirty on the summit. And Diane, did you have a question separate from that?
Yeah, Clark, I have a lot of really excited fellows for next year that already want to make their reservation. So they're asking me questions. I'm like, hold off till I know more here. But I got it that we can fly in then from North Carolina and be there by noon. That's not a problem. And then leaving, you guys are probably going to arrange that limo thing that you did before, I assume, or give us the information to arrange the limo that comes from the airport out to Lisle, because we've done that before on different things. But what I'm hearing from you, it'll get done maybe 3 or 4 in the afternoon-ish, instead of, like, we're not going to have an official dinner Saturday night with everybody or anything like that. So if I plan to have everybody leave, like, by 6 p.m., on a 6 p.m. flight Saturday, the 16th, I should be okay. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out for my expenses and stuff exactly, would we be picking up a hotel room the night of the 16th, and how late will we get out so I can tell them, look, we're flying out this night.
Yep, right now.
And last year, what we did is the one night we all went out and we used it sort of as a team building exercise, sort of, to get to know each other better. And that was real positive, because I think of all the years I've had the fellows, other than the first year, that they really enjoyed going out together, and we sort of coalesced, or, you know, getting to know each other better. So it was a very close group this year, and they brought it upon themselves. Outside of things, they arranged another sort of social event with all of us, and they did it, not me, which was sort of cool. And so I was just sort of curious about that, just so I can budget things.
Yeah, Diane, you're thinking exactly the same way that we are. For planning purposes, you can assume that the day will go at least until 4 o'clock. Obviously, this is a Saturday night in the Chicago area, so we would presume there may be an interest in people staying overnight, you know, getting the Saturday night stay, you know, fare, flying out on Saturday, maybe experiencing part of Chicago. So fully expect the program will run, you know, up till about 4 o'clock. We're contemplating with having some kind of group team building activity. That's probably going to be a Friday night thing, leaving your teams able to do something on Saturday night, as you kind of indicated. So that's kind of the thinking as of right now. Plans will be finalized, you know, in probably a couple, 3 weeks. You know, we're working with the hotel right now. So it will be a little bit of time before we give you the full kind of details, but expect that Saturday's official activities will go up to 4 o'clock. And so therefore a 6 o'clock flight may be, you know, a little tight.
Okay, that's Clark.
Yep.
Go ahead, Diane.
Sorry, one more thing. That's good to know, because Lisle's a little ways from O'Hare, but O'Hare's closer to fly into than downtown, the other airport. So it takes a little while more to get to O'Hare. So if we do decide to stay over Saturday night, we'll be able to get the hotel rate, the Coleman rate on Saturday night, and it'll be okay to do that with the grant if we decide that, or airlines work out.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay. So any other questions on the summit, at this point? Okay. Then I want to move on to one other kind of somewhat related topic.
Hey, Clark.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Yep.
This is Alfie. I just have one quick question. We don't know who all the new fellows are, and if we knew that just ahead of the summit, so we'd know where their disciplines are and whatever, that would be really nice to help my fellows know what they're going to get into.
So, Sharon, you're asking for the names of all the fellows in the program to be sent out to you?
Not the names, just what disciplines do they represent?
Oh, sure. Okay. Well, yeah, we're expecting to be notified. I think June 1st is the date that you are obligated to tell us your fellow's name, title, and discipline.
Right.
So we can send that stuff out, or we can post it on the website. But, yeah, I think that's a good idea, Sharon. We'll try to communicate that information when we have it.
Scott, if I can chime in, that's a great point, Sharon. In fact, I am hoping that when you turn in your names of the fellows by June 1st, you would also give us a sense of the courses that they usually teach. So if you have a fellow teaching usually graphic design, it would be great information for us to have for the planning of the summit so that we can determine how to group fellows. And so the community at large can also know, okay, I have this year 6 new fellows who are teaching graphic design majors or engineering majors or chemistry majors. So when you turn in, or if you haven't done so, or when you're turning in the names between now and June 1st, when you turn in the names, please also include the courses that they are scheduled to teach in the fall or the next year. Or if you're not sure of that, at least list the courses that they typically teach. That would give us a lot of information about how the grouping works.
Okay, so as you recall from last year's summit, we had licensed a particular part of the intellectual property from Claremont Graduate School relating to Peter Drucker's teachings on innovation. And what we licensed was the specific workshop materials that we all experienced, that we went through. And so, as you know, every fellow and yourselves, as you went through the workshop, signed a release that defined your use of those workshop materials. Now, we've made the decision not to renew that agreement with Drucker. And that is not because we didn't feel the content was good, but we felt that the way in which we might use it would be different from the workshop that we licensed access to. So as of the end of July, that licensing agreement will lapse. And what that means is that all of us who have access to the workshop materials can no longer use them, and they must be either destroyed or returned to Claremont Graduate Institute. So your fellows and you signed a document kind of confirming that you would do that when and if this license agreement expires. So what we're going to be doing is making a request to you so that by the end of July, we will be in compliance with the Coleman Foundation license agreement and with your individual one that you signed at the summit. So, the specifics we'll be communicating to you shortly, but please be aware that we'll be asking for you to destroy those workshop materials. So if you have that binder, that we passed out, we need to destroy the contents of that binder and no longer use that specific workshop content in our future work. Now, we can still work off our notes. We can still incorporate elements of that, from our own experience, but we cannot use that intellectual property for, advancement of, our particular activities. So, again, this is kind of a heads up that we will all need to be in compliance by the end of July with this. That means you, that means your fellows. And so we'll be communicating our, obligation on the foundation side to make sure that happens. So please watch for that. That will be coming out shortly. In the interim, you can start, destroying your workbooks. You can ask your fellows to do the same. And there will be an expectation that everyone who is involved in that summit communicate that they have complied with the destruction of these documents. So again, more details, but that's the general tenor. Any questions at that stage, understanding that we'll give you more specific guidance in coming days. Okay, great.
Okay, and if there are questions about this or the summit, please feel free to email me or Clark or both, and we will get back to you as much as the details are finalized at this point. The couple other announcements that I wanted to share with the community is there was a request from some of the fellows to be able to publish some of their work either as a case study or maybe even an article based on their experience in pedagogical content and new content they created. And if you're interested in that, there are several journals that I think will be interested in hearing from you. So if you have fellows in your campus interested in that, have them contact me. I'll give them rather than go through all of it right now, I can send them the links of journals that would be specifically interested in hearing from the fellows. And a lot of interest in what we are as a community of practice are engaged with in terms of entrepreneurship, pedagogical content, and new content development. So there's been some interest in that. So that's one. The other announcement is we are working to redesign the website. The website itself was created as a blog, and now it's become a sort of a database site that people search and find syllabi and updates and articles and pedagogical information about how to develop cross-campus interdisciplinary entrepreneurship, coursework, lesson plans, and modules. So the timeline on that is before we get together in August, we'll have the new site launched and running. In the meantime, you can continue to post as you have always, and I don't expect any glitches in the transition piece, but I just wanted the community to be aware that it's being worked on. And there are some suggestions that I have gotten from fellows and directors in the past, and if you feel that, I think this is absolutely something that we want to see on the site, please feel free to email it to me or Clark or Mike or Rosa. We would like to incorporate those changes. And one of the constant issues or complaints that I've heard is it's very difficult to search on the fellow site. So we are addressing that. That will be completely redesigned and retooled in how we search on the site. But if there are other elements that you feel that are absolutely critical to redesigned site, please feel free to email us, and we welcome your comments and suggestions. And the timing is now, so we are sort of engaged in the wireframes and the architecture that would be the new site, and we welcome comments on that and suggestions. So are there any other questions or comments in any of the topics that we touched on so far?
Joe, it's Mike. I just
Yeah.
make one comment. And, Clark talked earlier, about the differences that are going on campuses, and thank you for your efforts. I had an opportunity last week to spend some time on two fellows' campuses, and it's really probably the most gratifying part of what we do is when you can get out tires and see what's happening. So I really just wanted to chime in on that as we kind of wrap up this year.
Okay.
Your efforts, and congratulate you on the change that you're causing on campus. So thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you for that affirmation. I get a lot of interest, not only about the Fellows Program, but also about what they are doing to increase entrepreneurship. So, and this is from across not only the world of entrepreneurship education, but education in general. So we are very happy and thankful for all the work that all of you as directors and fellows engage and produce. So I want to chime in and thank you for all your efforts and work. And also, thank you for your patience. Some of these things sometimes get complicated, and some of the questions that you may have may not get answered exactly the way you want. So we're open to, again, as a community, evolve and change and work the best we can to support you and your fellows. And that is the true benefit of being a part of a large community like this. So I want to chime in and thank everybody for that as well. So Clark, after the roll call was taken, we have Richard Lou was able to join us. I just wanted to let you know that.
Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Any other closing thoughts? We are almost at the 11 o'clock hour. Okay. Well, great. Then we will see those who are returning at the summit, and those who are not continuing on. Thank you again for all your work, and we definitely hope to keep in touch with you, and feel free to do the same on your end. And we will look forward to another successful year of Fellows Program in the upcoming academic year.
Great. Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.